There are so many ways to succeed without burning out. But today's kids don't know that. They see images of perfection, sound bites capturing the highest quality words with perfect syntax and perfect diction. And they're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it? How am I going to succeed? And it can feel really overwhelming. And one of the things I like to do with those brilliant but stressed young people is help them to recognize the tools they have already to succeed. Now, when we have tools, we have to acknowledge that tools must be put to work. They're not there for us to look at. So for example, I've got this stapler here, and the stapler is no use to me unless I use it to staple my pages together. That's the same thing with our tools. And I want to share with you a product that is a wonderful way to capture the use of tools, particularly in conversation. Okay? You've seen this book. It is so much fun, amazingly created by me and a wonderful, wonderful woman named Danielle Walker. And this book was created with a highly sensitive, empathic, brilliant, high potential learner in mind. That young person who is so curious, so excited, but can be overwhelmed by the things that they see and think about, and just like, oh man, how am I going to do this? Okay. Now there's a question in here. Some of these questions are a little more advanced. You may be like, no one's ever asked me that, so I need a little bit more time to think. If you've bought this book for your child or for your students, I want to bring you to the back page. There are no page numbers, and I've gotten some feedback like, why not? I say, why? I just don't know where I would put them. So anyhow, on this page, Cultivating Courage, towards the back, so you can see this is a thick book, about 140 pages, fully colored, and towards the back, you'll see this page, and it's written, ask your parents, guardians, and caring adults. Disappointment has come to pay you another visit. How do you mediate the conversation between you and this emotion? So disappointed is the emotion, okay? And in this video, I'm going to help you answer this question, because many of us don't think of our emotions as coming to visit us. And one thing I love to do is present emotions as clouds that pass by. And that's a very ancestral way of looking at it. They're just clouds. This is ancestral wisdom. They're passing by. You know, there's no quote that says, trouble's gonna come, but you don't have to give it a chair to sit on. And I just love that quote. And so with that wisdom, we recognize that emotions pass us by. We are not necessarily what we feel it. And who we are at our essence can influence how we feel, how we see ourselves, okay? So when we talk about this question, well, how do you mediate the conversation between you and this emotion? For the adult to prepare your child to answer this question and for you to be able to answer it yourself, just have an object nearby and imagine that this is disappointment, okay? It's come to visit. And you can feel it, you can hear it. And you know what? That's an exercise right there. When you know that disappointment is arising or arriving, what do? Where do you feel that? You know, I felt that in my back a little bit. I felt that in my shoulder. You know, you can feel it in your core. You can feel it right here, okay? And how you're relating to that emotion is not right or wrong. You're simply relating to it. So this is an emotional awareness tool. Naming it and let it be. Let it be. You don't have to shape it. You don't have to absorb it and ingest it and internalize it as many of us has learned to do. You just observe it. That's mindfulness. Now, it's come to pay another visit. This is a key word because disappointments are part of life. Disappointments are a fact of life. So we don't need to be trying to avoid disappointment. I know this is really something for us adults especially, who are accustomed to doing things the best way we can do them so we don't disappoint anybody, right? We want to support our kids in doing the same. And that's impossible. We're going to disappoint people. But if you know beforehand that you have the ability to cause some disappointment for whatever reason. You are less likely to be taken off center or off your course because you've disappointed someone. And this is very, very important. I really want to support you in understanding this, because for years I avoided bringing disappointment to my family, to my friends, because I just couldn't handle it. And now at this big age, I can handle it. Like, you know what, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to let you down. You know, we may not see things the same way. We may not have heard the same words when someone was speaking, and that's okay. Where do we stand? You know, then we can have those mature conversations, because we are learning to master ourselves in light of the emotional experience. This is a great teaching, okay? So disappointment is a fact of life. It comes to visit. And now it says disappointment has come to pay you another visit. It doesn't mean that you're always causing it, okay? We have to change how we're relating to these emotions, change how we're seeing ourselves with them. Well, disappointment's back to life. Okay, it's coming to pay you a visit. Okay, and just be lighthearted. Now, how do you mediate the conversation? Again, we're using this as a visual example, an object. You simply say, okay, disappointment. This is disappointment, okay? When you mediate the conversation, you would have to anticipate what disappointment is going to say. You anticipate, what is this? Well, you know, I always try. It never works. Now, I know something about disappointment. You know something about disappointment. And one thing I've observed about the dialogue of disappointment is that it uses words like always and never. And so when we have those words, and emotions shape our language, language shapes our emotion. Cognition and emotions are not separate. They're very intertwined. So oftentimes we hear you need to put your emotions aside. Well, you need to feel them in a way that doesn't hinder you from making a decision. That's what I say. If you completely divorce yourself of your emotional experience, you're gonna have a harder time making decisions in a way that feels holistic. If you're shutting off your, I don't use my heart. I don't consider how I feel. I don't consider how others feel. It's just a little extreme. So what we want to do instead is, well, let me hear what this emotion is saying. What's the language of this emotion? Always, never. It's very easy for disappointment to distort what is being heard, what's being said, what has been heard, what has been said. This is such an important thing, you know, because disappointments, heartbreaks, these are all part of life. And even the Honorable Malcolm X talked about how these things can improve our performance the next time. Every seed of adversity, disappointment, heartbreak, he says, it has the capacity, the ability to improve our performance for next time. So when we look at disappointment as a fact of life, say, yeah, I was really disappointed by that. And then you look at the why. Well, I was disappointed because I was predicting this, or I anticipated this, or I interpreted this. Then you can have some more understanding, and you actually diffuse the power of disappointment. That's good stuff. You actually diffuse the power of disappointment. So let's wrap this up. Disappointment has come to pay you another visit. How do you mediate the conversation between you and this emotion? That's in the book. Okay, well, this is disappointment. And I'm going to say, well, what does disappointment normally say? Where do I feel it? And then if I'm mediating a conversation between me and disappointment, that's where I begin to not deny what's happening, not make up something that's there and isn't there, but simply speak the facts. Well, I feel this way because I feel this emotion because I was thinking this way. I interpreted the situation this way. I predicted, I anticipated. Again, I'm using those words because that helps us to reprogram our minds around our emotional experience. Helps us to put us back in the driver's seat or the co-driver's seat, okay, depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, but put you back in the position as a decision maker. And then you don't have to be overcome by those emotions. And then you can say, you know what, I use love and logic. You know, I don't separate emotion from my decision making. I consider, you know, there's a decision making technique called 10-10-10, which is how will you feel 10 minutes from now, 10 days from now, 10 months from now, or you could say 10 weeks. I was working with a family, it's a high achieving family, very successful. And I shared this technique with their daughter during life coaching. She shared it with them, and they said, well, I say 5-5-5. And I said, ooh, that's good. So now I do 5-5-5. And the reason why I say 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, or 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months is because we're actually cutting the time in half. And when we talk about being successful, it's not about eliminating all parts of struggle and uncertainty. It's about being able to manage ourselves in relationship to the objective we set and the time we have to reach it. Wow, that's exciting. So when you think about making decisions, whether it's 5-5-5 or 10-10-10, you have to consider some emotion. Well, how will I feel 5 minutes from now if I do this? I want to feel great. Okay, you know, how will I feel 5 weeks from now? Oh, I may feel great in 5 minutes. So if I keep eating these donuts every day of this time, 5 weeks from now, definitely will see a change in 5 weeks. 5 months from now, if I continue on this pattern, definitely will be able to see that as well. So I'm using donuts, right? Because they taste so good. But I have to say, okay, if I'm feeling good 5 minutes from now, maybe this is just a once every 2 weeks type of thing, okay? And that's how I merge emotion with the decision-making process, okay? It's all about being an observer and then using the emotional experience as data. Originally, I had this book and I said, okay, this is for kids to explore their emotional awareness, to improve their strategic decision making, and to have fun while doing it, to create a visual around it. But some of these questions are a little bit more advanced, and I got some feedback around that. But then one friend told me, Ashley, let them do a little bit of thinking. So I want you to do a little bit of thinking. I want you to have fun. And if you have any questions about how to use this tool, how to use this wonderful tool with your students, I want you to email me at Ashley, ASHLEY, at risewhereyouare.com. This is a great resource, and there's so many ways to build upon it, and I would be delighted to share with you the ways that you can build upon this resource. But for now, think about that question. How would you mediate a conversation between you and disappointment? You can actually use any type of object. I got these cute little stuffies here. You can use any type of object. If happiness has come to pay you another visit, how do you mediate the conversation? Oh, well, there's no mediation. We just give it a chair to sit on, whatever you decide, okay? I bless you. I want the best for you, and I'll see you again soon.